This is Deep Dive into Joy, and I'm your host, Gina Rickner.
Hey Joy listeners, it's your host, Gina. Welcome to Deep Dive into Joy. This is where we explore real stories and testimonies, talk about health and wellness, and hear from people who have heard God's calling, along with everything in between. Today's episode is one I think will really speak to your heart. I'm sitting down with Susan Spaid. She is someone who wears a lot of hats. She was a school counselor until she retired. She's now a high school golf coach. She teaches swim lessons at the YMCA, and she teaches at her Sunday school class at her local church. But she's more than that. She's someone who's learned how to live joyfully in the middle of a very full life. Her story is a reminder that when God calls you, He equips you. And joy can be found even in the small things. So let's dive in. So I like to ask just a fun question to everyone before we start. What is your favorite drink?
I brought it with me. Sheets coffee.
Sheets coffee. Does it have to be Sheets or just coffee?
Just coffee.
Yeah.
But Sheets is my favorite.
That's what I used to drink all through college.
Yeah.
Now I can't stand it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Susan Spaid. Sue, thank you so much for being here with me.
Happy to do it.
Thank you. Okay, so I know Sue because she used to be one of my youth pastors. Her and her husband, Jeff, were staples in my teen years. I don't know how they did it, but they did, and they did it well. I have so many fond memories from my youth group days, and you guys made it even more special. I do want to ask, before we start with your journey about being a youth pastor, now an adult Sunday school class teacher, how difficult was it really to be a youth pastor? Because you guys made it look easy.
It was tough. Some days, it was a lot of fun because, we enjoyed the kids and they made it fun. But you took it home with you. There were some nights we went home and it was just, wow. We kind of got on our knees and prayed because it was just really, really hard. Some of the things the kids told you just broke your heart, and you can't just let that at the door. They tell you have to distance yourself and you have to, put it out of your mind and just, and not dwell on that stuff. But it's really, really hard not to. There was a lot of heartache with some of those kids, and you also worried, were you reaching them? Were you presenting the gospel in such a way? We had great material, but, you always wondered, is that vacant stare
Yeah.
a vacant stare, or are we processing?
Yeah, are they soaking it all in?
Yeah, you really, and we worried about that because we wanted to make sure we were reaching them for Christ. Because, I'm sure, most of the kids were saved in that youth group, but there were a few I had questions about. And you always worried about that. You wanted to make sure you were bringing that home to them so that there was no doubt, that they were, about God's love.
Well, I know for me, you guys, reached me personally because that's where I learned how to read the Bible, and we would memorize verses, and that's how I learned to read the scripture. And so I know that I soaked a lot of it in, if that helps.
That's good. That does help, yeah.
I think those days are really what shaped me into the person that I am now.
No, that's good.
So
I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad it had that.
It was some of the best years of my life.
Yeah, and I still hear from some of the kids.
Do you?
Yeah. We just recently lost one of the kiddos
from
an overdose. And
Okay.
Her best friend reached out to me and said, "Hey, I just want you to know we lost so and so." She said she was down a wrong path. She got her life straightened out. She was doing well, but she fell back, and it got her. And I said, "How are you dealing with that?"
Yeah, that hurts my heart.
Yeah, she said it's just it seems surreal. I can't really figure out. I can't really grasp it yet.
Yeah.
So I had a chance to talk to her a little bit about that too. So.
Wow.
And Jeff still hears from a lot of the kids too. He follows them and still talks to them, which is kind of cool. Facebook is a wonderful thing to be able to do.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one thing it's good for.
It is, right.
And you guys did so many things with us, like activities. Like it was more than just sitting in the church every Wednesday and Sunday.
Right.
Like you guys took us out and we did so much.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Yeah, I'll never forget the tubing over at Tussey Mountain.
Yes, that was fun.
Yeah, we went to McDonald's that night, and I had a filet of fish sandwich and a shamrock shake. And 2 a.m. I was in the hospital with a major gallbladder attack.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that.
Yeah, oh yeah. Dr. Yingling asked me, what did you eat? And I told him, and he said, that is just a perfect recipe for a gallbladder. That's one of my fondest memories, that. And we would do that thing with Word of Life where we would go out, like the all-night thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, ice skating was not my thing. I mean, I don't like...
No, I don't think it was mine either.
I don't like anything cold. You know, in the winter, I swim. That's all I do in the winter because I just can't stand the cold.
You're indoors.
Yeah, but I mean, we would do that, and then we'd go bowling, and I mean, that was like that all-night thing, and that was always fun to do.
Yeah, we had the all-nighters, shut in at the church too. So those, those are fun.
That was a lot of fun. We enjoyed that. That was, I mean, you know, kids like to have fun, and that's another way you reach them. You know, it's not all God loves you, Jesus died for you, but it's not all. You can't, you know, it's not all that.
Yeah.
You know, God wants us to have fun. God wants us to enjoy life. And that was all part of that teaching, you know, to say, hey, it's good to have fun.
Yeah. Do you think that you enjoy being a Sunday school an adult Sunday school teacher better than a youth pastor, or?
Oh, no. I mean, they're similar. I mean, they're different, but they're similar. I'm teaching. It took me a long time to figure out that my spiritual gift was teaching. I really probably just figured that out about 15 years ago, maybe 20. I never really knew what it was, but I thought it was leadership. I thought it was management, that stuff. But it really is teaching. And, you know, the adult Sunday school class, there's me and another woman in her late 40s. We're the young ones. I mean, these people in my adult Sunday school class are late 60s, early 70s, and 80s.
Okay.
And they're a blast. They
Cute.
really are. I learn as much from them as they learn from me. You know, we love to do DVD studies. We'll watch a DVD like Max Lucado. We'll do a Max Lucado DVD, and then we'll talk about it, you know. And that's just such a neat thing. We all share life experiences, you know. They learn from me, I learn from them, and that's what's really kind of good about it. I mean, it is similar because it's teaching and it's helping, but we don't have the fun we had with the youth group because I mean, they're not teenagers. But
I'm sure they have a lot of wisdom.
They have a ton of
all
wisdom.
Those years behind them.
A ton of wisdom, and you know what's really cool is if somebody's really struggling with something, it is a small group. I mean, it's a Sunday school class, but it's technically a small group. So if somebody's having a struggle, you know, they're comfortable enough to share that. And then we talk about it. And then we kind of help one another. And that's the beauty of that small group, that adult Sunday school class. Yeah, so that's really a neat thing to do that.
And how many years have you been doing that? Or is that just recent?
No, about 5.
5?
Yeah.
And how does that bring you joy?
Just being able to share with people. It's funny because the guy who was teaching it had to take a sabbatical because his wife she developed dementia, and it was difficult for them to get there and everything. So he said, "Hey, we take the Sunday school class until I can get back." that was 5 years ago. You know? So yeah, that's one of those. And the same thing happened to him. He took it because somebody took a sabbatical, and we laugh about it because he's back now. His wife passed away a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he's back now, and we'll laugh about that. He said, "I did to you what they did to me," you know? So we kind of did that. So yeah, it's but just being able to share and just being able to help people is where I get the joy from that. Yeah, so there's a tremendous amount of joy there, you know, being able to, you know, I love that Sunday school class. I pray for them every day. You know, I tell Pastor Steve all the time, I love that Sunday school class. They're just, you know, and we actually have a group text, and throughout the week we'll chat about something. You know, somebody will have something happen in their life, and they share it with the group. Good, you know, good stuff. They'll share bad stuff or struggles too, but a lot of good stuff they share during the week, and it's just fun to read the comments back and forth. So it's just, it makes me smile.
That's a great community to be in.
It is a great community. It really is.
So you kind of already answered this maybe, because I was going to ask, how did you step into the role? So you're just kind of like thrown into it because you're asked.
Yeah. Well, and I was willing to do it. I said, sure, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's one lesson you taught recently that really spoke to you?
Okay, we're doing Max Lucado Glory Days now, and it's a DVD and then discussion questions. But he did one on praying audacious prayers, not being afraid to ask God for big things. Don't go through the rote memorization, same thing every day. Tell God that you know He's going to do something. And that had such an impact on the entire class. We have a woman there who's basically with her son, raising her grandson. He's got some psychological and physical challenges. And she said, I said, who's got an audacious big prayer? Because after we did the lesson, I said, I need to know who has one. And she spoke up and she said, I'll call him Jake. His name's not Jake, but just for
that's fine.
She said, I want Jake to be whole. I want Jake to be well. I want Jake to be like kids his age. I want that. And God can make that happen. I said, yes, He can. So I challenged everybody in the class. I said, we're going to pray that prayer this week. We are going to pray for Jake to be whole, for Jake to be well, and we're going to tell God we know He's going to do it. We're not going to ask Him. We'll say, God, I know You're going to do this. So we're going to pray those audacious prayers. Max's comment was Joshua. That the lesson was all built around Joshua when he prayed to God, keep the sun in the sky, don't let the moon come out when they were in a battle. And God did that. God kept the sun up, sun didn't set, night didn't come, and the battle went on. And that's what that was about. Joshua prayed that prayer. God did it. And Max said, we can do that too. So, after she spoke up, then somebody else in the class talked about their spouse's physical challenges, and he's got a myriad of those. And she said, I just want this over. I just want him not to be sick anymore. I just want him to be well and whole. So we prayed that audacious prayer too. So that was just a great lesson, because we do. I mean, we go through the motions a lot of times in prayer. We just do the same thing every day, and it's like, God wants to hear what's on our heart. He wants us to commune with Him. That's where we talk to God. We don't just memorize stuff and repeat it back, no. No, that's not what it's about. He wants to know what's on our heart, and praying those prayers is important. And it was just a really great lesson. And it kind of spoke to all of us in that room, I think. Yeah.
And I know that's like, those are the, I keep saying we got to stop putting God in a box.
Right.
Like, I feel like we just picture Him this certain way, and He's so much bigger. And, I prayed those prayers through my cancer journey, and I prayed big, bold prayers.
Right.
Because I knew the healing that He could do.
Right.
And I also come to learn that I knew He was going to heal me, but even if He didn't, I was still going to be okay because He was with me no matter what.
Right.
But yeah, like I've just learned throughout that whole journey, it's like I need to be praying these big prayers and not putting Him in a box.
Right.
So I think a lot of people need to learn that. Like He's such a much bigger God than what we could ever imagine.
Absolutely.
He made the heavens and the earth, and if He can do that and create us, and something like cancer is not too big for Him.
No, nothing's too big for Him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have a special memory from your youth pastor days?
Yeah. Seeing the kids understand God's love for them, because we had several kids that didn't feel loved. You can probably remember who those were.
Yes.
I don't think they got love at home. And I don't want to be critical of parents, but I just think it was dysfunctional relationships. And one little girl in particular, her and I talked one night after class, and she said, God really does love me. I mean, he doesn't he's not sitting up there checking off boxes when I do bad stuff. No. It was being able to make her understand that there was a being that loved her for who she was, wanted her to kind of change some of her attitudes and things for her benefit, but just, wasn't sitting there in judgment.
Right.
Wasn't ready to strike her dead, wasn't going to punish her because she was so used to being punished for things. And just having that, being able to get through to her and show her that. I mean, we had to go back and revisit that several times.
Yeah, I do every day.
Yeah, but it was just seeing that revelation dawn on her, like, wow, and I think that made a huge difference in her life. I really do. So that was important, and that's probably it's probably the thing that sticks with. I don't know if it's my favorite memory, but it's probably the thing that sticks with me, the one occurrence that sticks with me the most, you know, where I guess I felt like I was making a difference there.
Yeah.
Okay? That was important to do.
You for sure changed her life in that moment.
Exactly. Yeah. But it was seeing that light go on, like, wow, God loves me, that was so important.
That's cool.
Yeah. God's love made all the difference in the world for her.
Okay, I'd like for you to share with my audience how God called you into being a school counselor and all the things that you do now. So go ahead and share a little bit of your journey.
Okay. This is interesting. I was reading, I was hearing about Rick Warren, the pastor out in California that had this big, huge Saddleback church. And I saw that he had a book called Purpose-Driven Life. And God was kind of tapping me on the shoulder at that point in time, going, yeah, life's good, but maybe it's not great. So I picked up the book Purpose-Driven Life. And if people have not read that, I would recommend strongly that you pick up that book and read it. The very first line in that book is, it's not about you. And boy, that nailed me.
So true.
Yeah, it's not about you. And I finished the book, and I loved the book, and I learned a lot from that book. And then I started hearing God say, I was working at a bank then. I was in my second bank, and I was making a ton of money and climbing that corporate ladder, and I just heard God say, is this really what you want? And he kind of did that for, a little bit. Then I started to feel a call. Then he was saying, you need to do something different. You need to do something that matters. And I ignored it, and I backed away from it. For 2 years, he and I had that fight. 2 years.
We're good at ignoring his calling.
Yeah. But I felt it. I mean, I can tell you. I mean, I was feeling the call. I was feeling like you need to do something different. That was kind of what was going through my head. And then one day, the guys from corporate office came down, and they offered me what I had been working for years, which was a bank presidency. They wanted me to be a president of one of their divisions. But it was in Pittsburgh. I'm going, I'm not going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I know this. I'm successful here because I know this market. I know these people. I'm not going to Pittsburgh. They said, we want you to, blah, blah. And it was kind of like, you're going to go or else.
Wow.
And this was November. So after they left, I went back in the kitchen. I sat down. I looked up at the sky. I looked up at the ceiling and said, okay, you win. You win. You got it. This is it. I know. So the next day I called the CFO. It was the CFO I called. And I said, hey, I need the holidays to think about this. I said, I just need to think about it. I got to ponder it. I got to make sure I can do this. I got to talk to Jeff. And he said, that's fine. Because like I said, this was the end of November. So, we, had another month. And so I knew I wasn't going to Pittsburgh. So I thought, okay. So I went over to Penn State Du Bois, which is where I got one of my degrees. And I sat down with the career counselor. I didn't know what else to do. And I said, hey, I need to find another job. And she looked at me, she said, you've been a banker forever. I said, yeah, I know, and it's not working anymore. I need to find something else. And she looked at me and she said, what do you enjoy doing? And I said, I really love working with the youth group, because I was working with you guys then. And I said, I really like working with the youth group. It just gives me a lot of joy, and it's fun, and I enjoy it, and I feel like I'm making a difference. She looked at me and said, did you ever think about school counseling? I looked at her and said, not till just now. No. So then I looked into it, and I set up a job shadow. I went and shadowed a school counselor, and one of the professors at Du Bois loved me. She said, look at school psychologists too. So I job shadowed both. I didn't want to do the school psychologists because I didn't want to spend every day testing kids, and that's what I felt like that was all they did.
Yeah.
But I really felt like the school counselor was the way to go. I thought this would be great. This gives me a chance to help kids and work with kids, and yeah, it would be great. So I waited until January 3rd. It was weird. It was, I think we had a holiday that weekend, or the weekend happened over the holidays. It was the 3rd of January, it was Monday. And I called central office, and I talked to my guy there, and I said, I'm not going to Pittsburgh. I'm turning down that job. Well, I said, and I'm going to quit. No, that's not what we want you to do. I said, no, I have to do this. I said, I have a call in my life. I'll call him Ed. Wasn't his name. I said, Ed, I've had a call in my life. God has had a call in my life now. And I said, I'm going to go back to school, and I'm going to be a school counselor. Do you know the pay cuts you're going to take? I said, know all that. Yep. I said, I've been very blessed. I've saved well. I'm going to be able to do this. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I said, I'll give you till May, because my classes don't start till May. I'll help you get somebody trained. I'll do what you need me to do for the next 4 months until, the end of May. And I will give them credit. They were very gracious. I avoided the president of the bank for a month or two, and then finally he caught me one day. And he was a Christian, and he said to me, hey, he said, if God's got a call on your life, you got to do what God's calling you to do. He said, I don't want you to quit. I don't want to lose you. But he said, but I get it. I understand that. So then I went to May, and then I went back, because I had to go back and finish my bachelor's, because I had never really done that. I had an associate degree and some credits, so I had to go back and finish my bachelor's. I did that, and then I applied to grad school and got in at Penn State, which was a wonderful experience. And God's amazing, because the professor that ran the secondary school counseling program was a Christian. He was a Baptist, which was just amazing, And
for those who don't know, that's how we grew up.
Exactly, we're Baptists, yeah. So anyway, I'm still a Baptist at heart. Mm-hmm. Steve laughs at me all the time, but anyway.
Yeah.
So I went to Penn State then, and I got my secondary, and then it was elementary or secondary. You had to pick, and I picked secondary. So got my secondary school counseling degree, and it was funny. The last year you have to intern, and Penn State does it the right way. They make you intern the entire year. It's not a semester; it's the entire year. So I went to my alma mater, and just didn't get a good feel there. Didn't get a good feel from that interaction. My high school alma mater, and then so I called the school district that's 7 miles down the road. Am I allowed to say what that is?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. Yeah, whatever you want.
Went to Curwensville, and I didn't get a good feel there. Mm-hmm. I had one of those things in my head going, leave.
Yeah.
Go. Not going to be where you want to be. So I went out and I called Clearfield, and they were great. They said, we'd love to have an intern. We love interns, And the guy I talked to said, I can't supervise you because I'll be in my 3rd year next year, and you had to have 3 years before you at work before you had to get tenure before you could supervise. He said, but I know, guy doing 11th, the guy doing 12th grade would love to have. So I went and talked to him, loved it. So I interned there, and and all the school districts around here had gone through a financial crisis because there was a gentleman who basically stole all their money. And when that happened, a lot of the districts had to furlough people and had larger class sizes and tried to get back up on their feet financially. Well, that had passed, and Clearfield was in a position now where they were going to hire more people and get the class sizes back down where they needed to be and that sort of thing. And the gentleman I was interning with didn't want to be at the high school. He was the only one that had that certification. So when they had to furlough people, they brought him from the elementary back to the high school.
Okay.
So he was doing it under duress.
Yeah.
So come February, he learned that they were going to hire in the elementary again.
Okay.
And he said to me, he said,
wow, like all the perfect timing.
Exactly. He said, this is going to work out well
so
for
cool.
you. He said, God put you here for this reason, because I'm going back to the elementary, and trust me, this will be your job. You know, he said, you'll get this job because you've done a great job for me. And you know, and I look at that, because whenever I was in grad school, there were no school counseling jobs. It was really hard. You couldn't find a job. You know, they were
I'm sure, yeah, very,
yeah. And I'm sitting there, and he's going back to the elementary, and things lined up, and the principal came up and talked to me, and he said, it was funny, he said, the job's yours. You still have to interview. We have to interview people because we have to make it look like we're interviewing people. But he said, the job's basically yours. I said, well, thank you. I appreciate that. He said, you did a great job this year. And I went, well, yeah. I said, I helped so-and-so, you know, do it. He said, no, you did the job. And I said, well, no, I watched it. You did the job. From the time he knew he was going back to the elementary, he checked out. You were doing the job. So that was kind of good. But
he's like, just accept my compliment.
yeah, exactly. And it was amazing how God worked that all out. You know, I knew going into it. I knew He called me into it, so I knew He would provide. You know. And when you have a counseling degree, you can do other things. You can do community stuff and things like that. So I knew I wouldn't be without a job. So, but it was just amazing the way God worked that out. And you know, sure enough, you know, I landed there the next year, and I did that for 15 years, and I really did enjoy it. It was a good career for me, and I did really enjoy that.
I didn't realize that you did it for so long.
Yeah, 15 years. Yeah. So anyway, that was really good. And 15 years was good because I didn't have any of the kids I had.
Yeah.
Teachers say that all the time. They said the worst part of this job is having the kids of the kids I had.
Makes you realize your age.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of how, God lined that all up for me. So that's pretty much how I got into being a school counselor. The aqua size instruction that I do now, I started when I retired in 21. I knew I couldn't sit around and eat all winter. I knew I had to do something. So I went down to the YMCA, went to a couple classes, didn't really like that. Went in the pool one day to see what they were doing in there, and thought, oh yeah, this is great. I can do this. And it was fun. All retired people in there, you know, because we have it during the day. And so I started taking the classes, and about 3 months into it, the instructor said to me, would you consider subbing for me? I said, yeah. I said, but I haven't been coming that long. She said, no, but you pay attention. And one of the things about having having 20 retired women in the pool is they're all having these side conversations and doing their own thing, you know, not really paying attention to the teacher. I said, yeah, I could do that. So I started subbing for her. And then the YMCA came to me and asked me if I would actually teach classes, because they were trying to expand it, because it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They were trying to pick up a Tuesday, Thursday class focused on people with arthritis. So I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I started doing that. And then people asked me for a Saturday class. So I started doing that. So I was working, you know, quite a bit with that. And then other people came forward and said they were interested in teaching. So I kind of gave up some of those because I got the golf coach job at Kerwinsville. And that was interesting because the guy who had it retired, and a couple board members reached out to me because my husband and I golf a lot. And he said, why don't you take the golf coach job? You're up here all the time anyway, blah, blah. And, you know, that was last year. So I had been out of school counseling for 3 years. And while I didn't miss the job, per se, I didn't miss the testing, I didn't miss all the junk that went with the job, I did miss working with the kids.
Yeah.
So the coaching opportunity, you know, I have the old people in the pool, and then I have the young people on the golf course. So the coaching opportunity really, really kind of, and I prayed about it. I did pray about it. God seemed to lead me in that direction. So, I picked up the golf coach job, and Jeff's helping me. He's my husband, Jeff. He's a volunteer coach. So we enjoy it, and that's fun. So I think that covers everything I'm doing. Well, I'm actually,
like I said, many hats.
Yeah, we didn't have this in here, but I'm actually president of a specific dog breed rescue.
Okay, I didn't know
national dog breed rescue, Brittany's.
Okay.
The bird dogs. They used to be Brittany Spaniels, and in 1982 the AKC took Spaniel off because they don't hunt like a Spaniel. They point, and Spaniels flush. They rush the brush and chase the game up, and Brittany's point. So they took the Spaniel off their name. But I've been doing that since 2009. And,
where's that rescue based out of?
It's nationwide.
Okay.
Yeah. We are in every state. We don't do much in Alaska. We have put a couple dogs up there, but it's so hard to get a dog from the continental United States to Alaska. And we don't mess with Hawaii at all because Hawaii has quarantine rules that just are insane. Plus, you have to fly the dog, and we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we are in all 50 states, or all 48 contiguous states, and also the Canadian provinces. We're there too. So it's a, and and it was funny because I was a state coordinator for them because we're broken up into states, and then got the treasurer's job because I'd been a banker, and the treasurer resigned, so they gave me that job for a while, and then the president resigned, and I had.
So you made it to the president position eventually.
Yeah. A board member from New York and a board member from Washington State both called me independently and said you should take the president's job, and I'm going, yeah, well, I haven't done this that long, or whatever. And the guy from New York said, you manage people well. He said, you can tell. He said, you really do. He said, you know how to talk to people. You know how to get things done. They said, Sally, that wasn't her name, the previous president. He said, Sally was great with numbers. But man, she would make people angry because she just couldn't talk to people. She wanted to focus on the numbers and she could care less about the people. So, so I agreed to do that. And that took me about 6 months to get that thing figured out. And it's funny because Jeff and I had Cocker Spaniels for 30 years, and we lost 2 of them within 8 months of each other. He came home and he said, I don't want another Cocker Spaniel. I just don't. He said, I'm going to compare them and I don't want to do that. He said, I said, what do you want to get? Because we've always had dogs. He said, I'm going to get a Brittany. I said, what the heck's that? I didn't even know what it was. He said, Brittany Spaniel. And I went, oh, okay, bird dog. And I was looking at setters. I was looking at English setters, and I really liked them. But he won, so we got the Brittany. We adopted it from National Brittany Rescue. And I stayed in touch. It's funny because I stayed in touch with the person in Ohio that had fostered him, and the person who managed our adoption. And I was talking to her one day, and she was all disgusted. And I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "Oh, our Pennsylvania person quit. Now I have to take Ohio and Pennsylvania." And I said, "Well, that's a lot of work." She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, one question I asked: what all is involved in that?"
Good question to ask.
Like the next week, then I'm running the state of Pennsylvania.
Oh my goodness!
So it's like one of those things. But I enjoy that. That's a lot. It's not a lot of work. I do a lot of the financial stuff, and my primary job is just staying in touch with the people who donate to us and are benefactors and things like that. And occasionally, I have to manage a situation or a problem. But we have a really good organization. The board. We have 10 board members, and they manage the individual states and the provinces of Canada. So that works out really well. And we have a really good board, and it pretty much runs itself.
Yeah.
We do about 300 adoptions every year.
Oh, okay.
So,
and that's just in PA, or is that
that's
through the whole
nationwide,
nationwide?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. Brittany's aren't real popular dogs. It's not like they're not like golden retrievers or poodles or things like that. So they're kind of a special breed. We do place them with hunters, people that want to hunt them. I have 2. One hunts incessantly. Chipmunks. She got 13 last year.
I want to say that's the dog my neighbor has, but I'm not sure. But he is constantly up here chasing chipmunks and squirrels and God only knows what else in the woods.
Yeah, they hunt like crazy. They're just insane. They're insane hunters.
But I do see him doing the pointing thing all the time, and it's cold. No, is he orange? No.
Liver and white?
I think he's black and white and has maybe a little bit of brown on him.
Okay. Yeah, that liver looks black a lot.
Okay.
Could be a German Shorthair too.
Maybe I can't remember what she told me.
Yeah, so they're great dogs.
I just know he points.
Yeah, they're great companions and just really, really nice overall dogs. So I do that too. So yeah, I kind of do a lot of stuff.
Keeping busy.
Yeah, I do. Well, I've always been like that, you know. When I retired, I thought, you know, I can't just retire, you know. And somebody said that to me. They said, hey, you know, are you gonna? I said, I'm gonna do the golf coach thing for maybe 5 years. I'm not gonna do that past 70. I'm not, you know, because then it's time. I mean, after you do it a while, it's time to let a younger person take it over, you know. And maybe they'll have a teacher then that wants to do it, because they didn't have anybody that really wanted to do it the last time, you know. So anyway, but that's that. So yeah, it's but it's fun. I enjoy it all, and you know, Gina, I find joy in all of it. You know, and I tell the people in the rescue all the time, we're not in a dog business, we're in a people business, because what we're doing is we're reaching people. We're putting, you know, an animal, a pet, you know, a creature, and I say one of God's creatures, into the lives of these people, and it's enriching their lives. And that's what we have to remember is we're in a people business, not just a dog business. And you know, and I think that's really important, you know, for people to remember. It's about helping people.
Yeah, and just reaching someone with a little bit of kindness each day could change their life. So it doesn't matter how you do it.
Right, exactly.
I really think this can teach a lot of people how to listen to God's voice, you know, when He's calling you to do something. And it also shows us how God equips us for the call that He gives. We pause this episode to bring to you Building to Nutrition. From time to time, I like to highlight our local community small businesses, places where I personally shop and recommend. And today we have Building to Nutrition, your local destination for natural wellness. At Building to Nutrition, they believe that true health begins with balance, the kind that comes from nourishing your body with the right supplements, clean ingredients, and expert guidance. Owned by a licensed chiropractor, Dr. Matthew Rich, who has a compassion for functional health and natural healing. Building to Nutrition was created to offer our community a trusted space for wellness. They don't just sell products, they share their knowledge, support your goals, and empower you to take control of your health journey. What you'll find at Building to Nutrition: personalized advice and wellness support from someone who understands the body inside and out, not just from a retail perspective, but from a clinical one. Clinically supported supplements selected by a healthcare professional who knows what works and why. Whether you're seeking relief from chronic pain, looking to boost your immune system, or simply wanting to make better choices for your body, they are there to help you do it naturally and locally. Your health journey is personal. Your supplement store should be too. Stop by Building to Nutrition today and see the difference that community-rooted wellness can make. You can find Building to Nutrition at 1937 Daisy Street Extension, Clearfield, PA, where better health begins with better care. Okay, so how did you see your faith influencing the way you counsel students? Were you able to incorporate your faith in that?
Yeah, if kids ask, the way the law it reads, if kids ask you, you're allowed to talk.
Okay.
You know, if they don't ask, you can't, you know, evangelize. But if they ask you, you could share. And I had the opportunity to do that multiple times. And I was blessed because at Clearfield there was probably 7 or 8 Christian teachers.
Okay.
So we would get together. We would pray every Wednesday morning. We'd read in the library and pray for 10 minutes, you know. And we would bring specific kids on our heart or personal situations, you know, which was really good. You know, and I prayed for a lot of my kids. I really did. You know, my prayer life was, when I was a school counselor, my prayer life was probably the best it ever has been, because I had, you know, kids' interests and, you know, and things to be praying to God about, you know. And I nagged them a lot, you know. I didn't know about the audacious prayers then. I wish I would have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's amazing. Kids know. Kids really know. And we had a good group of Christian kids at the school too, and you knew who they were. But kids know if a teacher or an administrator or a counselor is a Christian. You know, a lot of kids were drawn to us.
Yeah, because you have that demeanor about you, and it's just like, they're automatically drawn to you.
And you're not sitting in judgment. You know, as a counselor, you didn't do that anyway. But you really did not sit in judgment. You know, and I have this funny story. This girl came in one day, and she was really rough around the edges. I liked her. From the day I met her, I liked her because she was just that kind of a kid. She came in one day and she was really upset. And she sat in front of me and she dropped the F-bomb I don't know how many times.
Oh my.
And I looked at her and I said, "You are just amazing." She shook her head and said, "Why?" And I said, "You use that as a verb, an adverb, an adjective, a noun." I said, "I never heard anybody do that." And she looked at me and I went, "Seriously?" I said, "You have a better vocabulary." And I didn't sit in judgment, but I corrected it,
Yes.
in my own way. And she looked at me, she said, "Yeah, I know, and I said, you can say what you want to say in here to me. You're not going to upset me or make me mad, but seriously," I said, "you can do better than that." And she learned a lot from that experience, Grace was another thing. There's such a lack of grace in our world, and there has been such a lack of grace in our world for many years.
Yes.
And grace was always a big thing, and I would always give that kid grace. And I can't tell you how many times I would argue with teachers because I was an advocate for the kids. I would go to the teachers and try to advocate for the kids. And I can't tell you the number of times I had conversations with teachers about, can you show this kid some grace? It was a foreign concept to them, a lot of teachers. Because you get that teacher that it is this way or the highway.
Yeah.
And I would have to have that conversation about grace with teachers a lot. And I would have it with kids about one another. I had juniors and seniors, so I didn't have any of the, like the kind of drama stuff.
The real immature stuff.
Yeah, it was more college career stuff. I started out with just the seniors, and then as we kind of downsized, I ended up with both the last 7 years. But the only time we had drama was prom. That was the only time I ever had any drama. But we had that conversation about grace a lot to friends, and then I'd have it with the teachers towards the kids. So, and I was blessed because I had a really good administrator for most of my career, and he had been a school counselor, so he understood what I did.
Yeah, he walked in your shoes.
Yeah, and it was good to have him. My faith really did influence how I handled the kids, because I did, like I said, I looked at it with grace. I prayed for the kids, and I did have conversations with kids. They would just flat out say, is there God? Is there a God?
Wow.
My line to them was, do you really think we're in charge? Seriously. I said, if I actually thought I was in charge, I would probably go home and end it because...
Yeah, I don't want to be in charge.
I don't want to be in charge. There's somebody that's in charge that's running this show, and it's not me, And I had some good conversations with kids. And actually, I had one kid that was just, she was so close, So I went down the hall and I got one of my other Christian teacher friends who is now a lay minister, which is interesting.
Wow.
She retired and decided to go into lay ministry. And her and I talked to that kid, and I said, if you're ready to make a decision for Jesus, you need to let me know. And she said, I still need to think of it. She never prayed the prayer that I know of. She may have on her own, but not with my teacher friend and I. But
you planted that seed in her head, so that's really cool.
Yeah, and she asked us, so we had the opportunity to witness to her, and that was good to do. Seriously.
And imagine how many of those kids don't even have, someone praying for them,
right?
Or even have ever heard of Jesus. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool.
Right. I actually had a kid come in one time and say, "Will you pray for me?" I said, "Absolutely." I said, "You want to pray now?" And we did. Yeah. So I mean, we did have some good Christian kids in the building, and they. And they would share with other kids, hey, you can talk to her because,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was something you learned about yourself through counseling?
There were things I couldn't fix.
Yeah.
There were things I could not fix. And I'm a fixer. You can tell from all the stuff I do. I'm a fixer, and I could not, there's just some things I couldn't fix. And that was a hard lesson. And I battled that and battled it and tried and probably halfway through my career, it dawned on me. It's like there's just some things you can't fix.
Yeah.
You have to let it go.
Yeah, and that would be heavy on the heart for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about, we learned about the side of you of being the high school golf coach. So I imagine there's a lot of life lessons maybe in coaching. Like, do you get to counsel those students too in maybe a different kind of way?
Yeah, there's 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 a lot of life lessons in golf. The first one is slow down and discover the joy. Being outside, being able to breathe the fresh air, and that sort of thing. Slow down and discover the joy. Uh, the other thing is, and I think this is really important, and I would always tell kids this in school, you know, um, you control what you think.
Yeah.
You can control what you think. Don't get stuck in your own head. Because if it was test anxiety or something, it was like, yeah, no, don't know.
Which is so easy to do.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
And then if Satan knows that's your weak point, that's what he uses
right,
against you the most.
right. Talent is real, but if you're consistent in what you do, that's going to show too. Um, and I talk to kids a lot about you got to love yourself. You know, I saw a lot of kids that didn't love themselves, and it was like practice self love. Think about things, reflect back on the good part of your life and what the good things about you. And this was always my favorite. Breathe, just breathe.
Yeah.
If they were
Those deep breaths,
breathe,
man, they do help.
yeah, just breathe. And then take responsibility.
Yes, I think a lot of teens have
of
issues
kids,
with that.
yeah, a lot of
My daughter included.
a lot of adults don't do that.
Yeah, true.
You got to take responsibility for your actions. Um, and then the other thing that I would always tell kids too is trust the process. There's a process in place for everything. Understand that process, read about that process, think about it, and then trust it. Okay. There's a process for getting into college. There's a process for going through college. There's a process for finding a job. There's a process for everything because people have done it before.
Yeah, it's there for a reason. It's
yeah. So there's a lot, and now that I coach, I use those same things with kids. Trust the process, and there's a lot of life lessons when you coach, and Jeff's the technical guy. I mean, he's the guy that can help the kid with their golf swing and say, look, you do this, stand here, stand there. I mean, I can do some of that too, but I'm the cheerleader.
Yeah.
You can do this. You just need to practice. Just get your head in the game and realize you can do this. Have faith in yourself. Don't get down on yourself. That sort of thing. I'm more of the coach during the game, during the matches, than prior. I'm the one doing this all the time, getting them to do that. So anyway.
So speaking of joy, how do you stay grounded with everything you do?
I pray. I talk to God every morning about the day. I ask Him, show me what you need to show me today, God. Keep me, if there's somebody who needs something, point that out to me, show me. And He does. I mean, He has, He's made things apparent to me that I might not have seen otherwise. I ask him every day to, show me the way, give me the ability to do what you want me to do today. Because it's not about what I want to do. It's about what He has for me to do.
Right, His will for our lives.
Exactly. And it's about other people. Again, it's not about you. The Rick Warren thing. I have to keep I tell myself that every day.
I know. Because we're so selfish, and
exactly.
We need to lay our flesh aside and
yep.
Be disciples for other people.
Absolutely. And I love my dogs. They help me stay grounded too, because they just make me laugh and they're funny, and Jeff's great. I mean, he's supported me through the career change. I mean, I left that banking job making, a ton of money, more money than I ever thought I'd make in my life. Took a huge took a total pay cut for 2 years to go back to school. So I mean, he's been very, very supportive of everything I've wanted to do, and and he's my rock. So he really helps me out for sure.
I would like to have him on sometime. So,
Yeah.
if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would that be?
Again, I would go back to the Rick Warren thing. It's not about you. Because for 7 years, it was about me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if I could go back and tell my 20-something that, that's what I would tell them. I would always tell them the grass isn't always greener.
That's true.
And it's okay to take risks. You know, and you know, and I was never really adverse to risk. And change wasn't something that bothered me. So I guess I would do that. But yeah, I would just tell them, you know, you're here for other people. You have to take care of yourself and you have to make sure you're okay, but you're actually here as God's minister to other people. And you need to take those talents and take those abilities you have and use them for Him, not necessarily just for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were created for a time such as this, and if He wakes you up every day, you have purpose. It's not, you know, just for you.
Right.
So what legacy would you like to leave behind?
A legacy of helps. A legacy of serving others and not myself. Yeah, that's the legacy I want to leave behind.
Yeah.
I want people to remember me and say, she helped me. She had an impact on me.
Yeah. That's beautiful, and I think you reached that. So
I try. Yeah.
And we kind of like already went over this. I don't know if there's anything else, but how you find joy in everyday life. I know you said through your pets and stuff.
I think we pretty much covered that. Yeah.
So
I mean, I talked to God.
Yeah.
You know, and I always have to remind myself. Okay, no matter how long you're a Christian, I think this is true. He's in control.
Yeah.
Because I like to fix things.
It's hard for me to set it aside.
Yes.
Because I like to.
Because I like to help people. Mm-hmm. I like to fix things. And I like to think I'm in control. And I'm not, you know, I'm not. So I have
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I have a hard time just like, even if a friend just wants to talk and like, of course I can sit there and listen, but I want to be the fixer.
Exactly.
I have a hard time just sitting there and just being that ear and not trying to fix it.
I want to fix it. Fix it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before we go, let's have a little fun. We're going to do some rapid fire. Okay. So I guess we already know this, coffee or tea?
Coffee, yeah.
What is your favorite golf club in your bag?
It's my driver.
Okay, what does that do? I don't know.
That's the
I don't know golf.
The club that you use first.
Okay.
When you tee off. That's the longest distance club.
Okay.
You know, and I can actually hit that. And it's funny because when I was at the bank, I started to play golf because the commercial lenders would call me and ask me if I golfed, and I'd say no. And finally, I thought,
why not?
I said, should I? Yeah, you need to do that because you can take clients out. Blah blah blah. So took lessons, learned to golf. Then I became very popular with the commercial lenders because I could actually hit that driver. And in golf, the women usually have 150 yard advantage. We get to hit forward of the guys.
Okay.
The guys hit back here, and the girls go 150 yards forward because we can't hit it as far.
Yeah.
So we hit from what they call the red tees. So the guys loved that because all of a sudden they had a 250 yard advantage over all the other guys because they had a woman on their team. So anyway, the driver's my favorite bag.
Best snack.
Heath bars. I love Heath bars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Favorite way to spend a Saturday morning?
Swimming. I love to swim. I really do. I love that.
And what about a hidden talent no one expects?
Okay. I'm a minimalist in decoration and things. I don't have a lot of knickknacks and stuff around. I'm very minimalistic. But I'm great with color and decorating. It's just I have an eye for color and I can see things and I dabble with painting. I don't do that a lot, but I can paint if I want to. But I love decorating and I love putting color schemes and things like that together. So yeah, and
that would be fun.
Yeah, being minimalistic, people don't think I would do that, but again,
I want to be a minimalist.
Yeah,
I need to go through this house.
Man, you know, and the older I get, I keep saying to Jeff, we got to downsize.
I know.
You know, when I retired, I did. I got rid of a lot of clothes, but I couldn't believe how many clothes I had. But anyway, yeah.
It's what I need to do, and I can't find time to do it.
I hear you.
So I like to end every podcast with your favorite Bible verse. So what is yours?
Jeremiah 29:11.
I leaned on that one a lot.
Yeah, for I know the plans that I have for you That got me through grad school. I mean, it was just, I needed that to get me through grad school because I knew God had a plan. He called me to that, and He was going to get me a job, and I knew it. But that verse was just what I said that every day, because I drove to State College a couple days a week for class, so I would just, I would repeat that. I memorized that verse, and I would repeat it, and it got me going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just really cool. Like, some people have a hard time wrapping their heads around, like, how I held on to so much faith during what I walked through.
Right.
And, like, I knew that He had me.
Yeah.
There wasn't, I mean, maybe in the beginning, like, I won't lie, of course it's dark and
Sure.
grim. You don't know what's happening.
That diagnosis is just terrifying.
Yeah. But, like, after that, I pulled my big girl pants up, and I'm like, you know what? He has me.
Right.
I don't need to doubt Him.
Right.
And, like, carrying those certain verses is just, it's definitely what got me through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, being able to just repeat some of those to me, back to myself every day. It's just really what held my faith together. Sure. And I tell people, if I didn't have my faith, I don't think I would be here.
Right, exactly.
Because it's a hard road to walk down, and to do that without God, I don't even want to imagine that.
I don't.
I don't.
I don't know how people do it.
It's, yeah. Okay, so I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story and coming on today. Your life is such a beautiful example of, what it looks like to follow God's calling. Whether it's in a school office, on the golf course, or in a church classroom. I want you to know how special it was to have you as one of my youth pastors. I believe it really shaped me in my life. And before we close, are there any words of encouragement for my listeners who are trying to figure out their own calling?
Don't miss it. Sometimes God sends us messages. God, probably 2 or 3 times in my life I can actually say, I never heard the voice of God, but I audibly heard something. That doesn't happen all the time. Whenever I was sitting at Curvensville trying to do that internship, I basically, it was like I heard this voice say, leave, go somewhere else. But one time I was coming home from somewhere on a trip, and I got this nudge to stop and get a cup of coffee, and I thought, I don't want to do that. And the voice was pretty adamant, so I stopped and got a cup of coffee. And as I went further down the road, there had been an accident, and if I hadn't stopped, I probably would have been in the middle of that accident.
Wow.
So that's one of those things.
Yeah.
You can't, if God is nudging you, if God is putting things in your head, if God is bringing people in your life and they're telling you things, don't miss that. Don't just pass it off as, now that's just so and so. God can communicate with us in a lot of different ways. Through Scripture, through other people. So I think you have to keep an open mind, and you have to be discerning, and not poo-poo things, not diss things just because it doesn't fit what you might think it fits into.
Yeah.
So yeah, be open, and listen.
Yeah. Thank you, Joy listeners, for tuning in today. If you can please do me a favor and share the show. You can follow my podcast on all the podcast platforms. If you can also leave me a review, this just helps, me know that you're enjoying the podcast, and it helps move it up in the list so it's easier to find. I would really appreciate it. As always, go out and find the joy today. Bye, friends.